Hello, hello. Welcome to the Five Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. I interview the top commercial real estate investors and industry experts so you can learn from their experiences. So if you're an investor, a high W-2 earner, or real estate or tech sales professional that wants to invest in real estate without having to manage properties or leave your day job, then this podcast is for you. Or if you're already investing in real estate, but you're doing it part-time and you want to become a full-time multifamily or full-time commercial real estate investor, this podcast is for you too. You're going to learn a ton. You will learn from real-life multifamily investors and other professionals in the industry. They're going to share their blueprints for success, and I'm super excited that you're here. So I hope you enjoy the show. Hello, hello. My name is Abel Pacheco. I'm the host of Five Talents Podcast, where we talk about commercial real estate, investing, syndication, raising capital, among many other subjects, and financial independence. Obviously, we're all here. We want to learn some great information, and we have just an amazing guest, Mr. Lee Yoder. Lee, thanks for joining us, brother.
Abel, it's an honor to be on your show. Thanks for having me.
Oh man, thank you. The pleasure's all mine. Literally, I think our network, our listeners are really going to get a lot of insight from you. So let me give a little background, and then I'll turn it back over to you for really your full story. But so Lee, you're a physical therapist, and that's what you do right now, right?
Yeah, I still am full-time in physical therapy.
Yeah, that's awesome. And so Lee, he started as a physical therapist. That's his profession. That's what he does right now. When I say started, he really realized his true passion for building his own business and investing in real estate. That's where I met him on another podcast where we were together in this podcast. And I go, man, Lee's just, he's an amazing guy. I want to learn a little bit more about him. You've got a passion and you take considerable action to really jump, quickly into multifamily investing. And you've gone from several small apartment buildings, and now you're looking towards, even bigger ones in the future. So I'm excited to hear. Lee is the founder and visionary behind Threefold Real Estate Investing, which I was super turned on. Lee has really created a path to help him drive incredible wealth, incredible opportunities for a lot of his investors and people that are working and learning from him, because he has a podcast as well. That's Threefold Real Estate Investing Podcast. And you guys focus on the three things that I'm passionate about as well: multifamily real estate investing, faith, and family. And, those are just awesome things. So let me turn it over to you. Lee, tell us a little bit about, yourself and what you're doing, what you're up to.
Yeah, sure, Abel. I'll just take it back to, coming out of college finally. I went to college for 7 years. You have to go for 7 years to become a physical therapist now. So I was in college forever. And it was about, 8 years ago, I came out, did some physical therapy, was at an outpatient clinic, and the hours there, we're working a little bit later. So my wife and I were starting a family. So I was looking to see maybe if there was another setting that I would enjoy more in physical therapy. So found home health, where I go to people's houses. And the cool thing about that is you get to make your own schedule. It's very flexible. And frankly, you don't have to work that many hours. So my wife loved this job for me. But I was just really bored. I was not fulfilled. It wasn't challenging for me. It was very relaxing, but I'm not a person that likes to be relaxed at work. I want to go to battle. Like I want some butterflies in my stomach when I'm going to work, because something exciting is happening there. And I just wasn't having that. So the company I was with actually asked me to come in and move into a clinical director role. So I jumped at that opportunity. And I started to grow within that company. It was a small startup company here in Cincinnati, Ohio. And I was building out a division for that company. So I really, I didn't know that about myself, Abel. I didn't know that I would like this so much, but I just really, felt called and just felt moved to help build this division in this company. And I really liked that. So I actually stopped doing any physical therapy. I wasn't doing any visits. I was managing all the therapists we had between 3 cities, and we had, about 100 therapists doing about 1,000 visits a week. And I was managing all that and building the company, making decisions like that. And I loved it. So work was great, challenging, but it was very consuming as well. And now my wife and our 2 young kids now just weren't getting that much of me. I mean, I was kind of drained and just kind of always consumed by this job. So, a few years into that, really about 2 to 2.5 years into that, I really started looking, maybe I needed to make a change because this just wasn't really working. But I didn't want to go just back to home health physical therapy where I just knew I would get bored again. So that's when a friend turned me on to real estate. My dad's in construction, so I understand that part of it, but I don't know anybody that's really an investor. So this was all new to me.
Was your dad an investor or
no? He's not. No, just yeah.
Okay, got it.
Just commercial construction, just general labor. Probably should have been. I mean, definitely could have flipped some houses. I've tried to turn him on to that. He actually is doing a little bit of it now. But yeah, didn't grow up around that at all, so that wasn't in my mind. But someone turns me on to Rich Dad Poor Dad, and just like a lot of people was like, okay, this is how I think. Like this is speaking to me. This is what I want to do. And so, Abel, I decided to leave the corporate world, take a very large pay cut. I mean, 25 to 30% pay cut, go back to home health physical therapy, knowing that I was going to get bored with that. But I knew, hey, on the side, I'm going to do real estate. So that was my plan. So that was coming up on 4 years ago that I made that switch. And it was about a year. I say I took a year off because I was still working full time, but it was very relaxing, like I said. And just started studying like crazy. I mean, I'm driving around, so I'm listening to tons of podcasts. Like too bad yours wasn't going on back then, Abel, but listen to some other good ones. And then a year into being back into that, 3 years ago, made my first real estate purchase, and have like you said there, I've kind of scaled that and gotten into multifamily.
Yeah, baby, I love it. I love to hear that. That's awesome. Following your dream and pursuing it, and really taking. If I could summarize a couple things I heard, you took some risks. You had to do that. You had to overcome probably some, fear, worry, anxiety, whatever the situation was, either between you or your wife, I would imagine, and push through it. And now you're doing, what you want to do. Another thing I heard was you weren't challenged. You were kind of bored. You said, hey, if I didn't have those butterflies in my stomach, then I wasn't excited to get after it. And I've heard it said in a way that, like a guitar, there's 6 strings on it, and unless they're tuned nice and tight, you don't get the right chord, and it just doesn't play well, right? And that's kind of what I was thinking of when I heard you speaking, was you need to be nice and tight to get going.
Yeah, it needs to be. Yeah, there needs to be a challenge there for me. Not everybody's like that.
Not everybody, but worked out very well for you. So let's dig into the real estate side. I do want to come back to some of your personal things, your family, the passion, but just before we head there, your real estate specifically, you made the decision, you made the jump. How did you tactically do that? I think I heard one point was you took a full-time managing 100 people to a part-time, or not part-time, but a more of a flexible, relaxable schedule that you knew you could do real estate on the side. So I think we heard that. How did you kind of get into it? Maybe the money, the time, the juggling of 2 schedules, any of that insight, I'm sure our listeners would like to hear.
Yeah, absolutely. When I was really thinking about making the change, I went to a friend of mine who was in the real estate space full time. And he was telling me about how he got started. He was doing a sales job and he was doing it from home. And he got to the point with this company where he was really able to work about 25 hours a week and fill his quota and do what his company, was paying him to do. And he was commission based. So, he was just getting paid for what he was doing. And then, so he had, 15 or, want to work a little bit more, 25, 30 hours on the side to get his real estate business going. So he asked me, he said, is there any way you could work from home? Could you be more flexible? Well, in my current job, the answer was no. So that's why, and I'm just saying this to tell other people, if you want to get into it, maybe that's what you need to look into. Is there a way to do your job? A lot of people are working from home now. So is there a way for you to get more flexibility in your current job? If not, is there a way to do a different job that would give you more flexibility? So that's what I did. So I go, and now I'm still full time, but I'm just not working near as many hours. And then also able, certain jobs are consuming. I mean, when you're managing people, it's just my wheels were always turning and I was consumed by that job. I couldn't really think about real estate and be crunching numbers for real estate, on the side.
Yeah.
My job, I was all in on it. So when I went to
managed, sorry to interrupt. I managed
ahead.
about 60 people on the sales side when I was trying to juggle real estate investing and doing that. And it was a beast. So I couldn't
Yes.
imagine 100 people like you were
Well,
doing.
and yeah, I'm sure you managing 60 was a lot more involved than me managing 100. They weren't in the office or anything like that, and they were kind of,
Yeah.
independent. So it's not as big as it seems at all. But anyway, yeah, it still was very consuming. So when I went to home health, now I had the time and I had the energy and just the capacity, the bandwidth to really start thinking about it. So I'm learning, and just like a lot of people, I thought, well, I'll start with a single family home and I'll do a flip. We bought one in our town. We
Yeah.
bought it on an online auction. Um, Another thing I'll say, what really set us up, you don't have to save a lot of money, but I think it's good for you to start working that muscle. If you want to invest, you need to start learning to delay gratification. So my wife and I have always been pretty good savers. We bought a house at kind of toward the bottom of the market in 2012. So we saved a bunch of money. We also had a bunch of equity in our house. It was, I guess 2017 when we're getting started, and we bought in 2012. So we had a lot of equity in our house. So we took out a home equity line of credit and we had a lot of savings. And we were at the point, Abel, where this house, we could afford a mortgage on this house and ours at the same time. So there was risk involved, but we also had a cushion. So I knew, hey, if we buy this, everything goes terribly wrong and we have to just sit there and own this house, we could. We wouldn't put us out of our own house or anything like that. So there was some cushion there. So we bought this house. It was horrible, probably a horrible purchase. It needed tons of work. We had to put 70,000 into it. It took us 9 months to flip it. I did a ton of the work myself. Financially, we did well on it. We did make, I think like around 30,000 or something, which is actually more than I was hoping we'd make at least 20. My wife thought for sure we were going to lose money. I mean, so she was just praying that we were going to break even the whole time. So financially, it was very good. Time-wise and just family-wise, faith-wise, that all got put on the back burner. At the end of it, the last 3 months, I had to be all in. We wanted to get it ready by May 1st. We did hit that goal, but I mean, I was out there every single day, 7 days a week. I mean, all weekend out there. So it was really bad. So my wife, it was like I was back at that corporate job that I had just left. So I kind of proved two things to my wife in that deal, that yes, real estate does make money, like I told you it was going to. So check there. But also what she learned from that is real estate is just as consuming as your, corporate job when you were climbing the ladder. And I didn't want that to be the case. So so pretty early on, Abel, just kind of realizing, you hear a lot of guys say this on podcasts, like flipping is just another job. You're getting yourself another job. So I had one job that wasn't that consuming, and then I added another one on top of that. And I was just doing 2 jobs at once while I was flipping. And again, there's people that do it a lot better than I did. When you hire a lot of the work out, frankly, on this deal, if I would have done that, I would have probably maybe broken even, maybe just made a little bit. So since I did a lot of the work, made some money.
Yeah, it makes perfect sense. And let me, pause you, right? And then we'll keep going, which is you took your $70,000 and put it in a deal. You come out at the end of it. You work 7 days a week. You grind your tail off for months. You're not closer towards more free time with your family. In fact, you're probably further from it. And, when you say, hey, it's less consuming than the job, you had way more risk in that single multifamily, single property than you would ever probably have on the multifamily, at least for this period of window, right? This period of time, this window of time, sorry. And it's, was that the premise for multifamily, or when did you flip over and say, you know what, I think I'm doing it wrong. I need to go to multifamily.
Well, yeah, it was just after that one. So we have done another flip since. It went way better, and it was after we had already gotten in. It was just this past spring. We were already in the multifamily stuff, and we did that just to kind of build up some capital, because it is a good way. If you do it right, it's a good way to get capital now. Multifamily is definitely more of a long-term play, and that's why I love it. I mean, I'm in this for the long term. I'm not in this, to make money this year. I'm in, to build wealth long term. But
do you think you'll make more active? I call it active capital, which you're explaining right now, right? Do you think you'll make more in the same period of time than working a professional job doing a flip?
Wait a second. So what am I comparing to? Am I comparing to being a physical therapist?
Yeah, like your current physical therapy role.
Yeah, the way my flips have worked out, I could probably do 2, maybe 2.5 flips. I would make what I'm making a year in my regular job, the way I've done them.
Okay, cool. So for anybody listening real quick, this is a point that people ask me all the time where they say, uh, should I start flipping houses and replace my W-2 income? Is that how you got started? And I think it's a very personal question depending on who's answering or listening or taking advice or giving advice, because if you're a high W-2 earner and you make a ton of cash, it's probably better to stay in your professional role and not
Yeah,
do a flip.
I agree.
On the flip side, if literally flip side, if you are not making that amount to cover, then it could be more lucrative to put your time, trade your time. You're still trading time for money, but trade your time in a flip versus your professional W-2 job. And
Yep.
I heard two flips. If you get two flips a year, which would probably be pretty freaking time consuming, but
Yeah.
if you did those, then you could either not do your job or kind of you have that juggle, you have that balance. But if somebody's if you guys are making 100, 200, 300K a year,
Yeah.
just keep working for your active
Right.
capital, right? But
And
if you're
yeah,
not,
just save
this is
your
a good way
money.
to do it, right?
I agree 100%. Yeah.
Okay, cool. So thank you for letting me interrupt. So Lee, you go and tell me about your first multifamily deal. Like how did you find it? Where did you get it? What did you do? All the good nuggets, and maybe tell us about your second and third too as well, because
Yeah.
I know you've done a few.
Yeah. So it was literally a year later. We kept laughing because it was every August. So in August 2017, we bought the house we flipped. August of 2018, we actually bought a duplex, bought it at the county auction, full gut rehab, got some residents in there actually, and managed that just for a few months. I knew I didn't want to be a manager or a landlord, and manage residents. They were great residents, very easy, but we just didn't like that. But actually ended up selling that in under a year. So that was really more like a flip. And then it was August of 2019 that we bought our first 16 unit. That property, Abel, I found on
Nice.
LoopNet.com. That's where they say, good deals go to die. This was a great example of that because
It's a great deal
yeah,
for Lee.
yeah, right. It was, it sat there for like a year and a half. I think it had been under contract
Nice.
twice.
Yeah.
It was a weird property. It's an old school building. It's in a cornfield. So it's in a rural area. It's just outside of Dayton, Ohio, which is just up from Cincinnati. So the property is like 20 minutes from where I live, 16 units. They had actually turned the school into a nursing home, then turned it into an apartment. So yeah, so the big time investors like you, Abel, you're not going to be interested in a property like that. It's only 16 units, and it's a weird property. So for someone getting started, I think sometimes that's how you have to get started. You have to take the properties that the big boys aren't interested in. It was definitely in disrepair. It had 3 vacant units. One of the residents was managing it for the owners. So a property that needed a lot of work and a lot of attention. So we were able to come in significantly under what they were asking, and actually just got a big credit, cash back at closing to help us pay for a new roof for it.
Nice.
And yeah, so I poured a lot of time into that, almost kind of treated it like a flip, like, hey, in the first, 3-4 months, we want to turn over a lot of units, put in a lot of new things. We didn't really raise rent that much. We added a $25 utility bill back. But when we turned the units, so there were 3 units right away, then we were getting like $70 to $95 of rent premium. And we really kind of cracked down on people smoking in the building, which was a novel idea for that building. So we had several more people moving. So I think we've turned 7 of the 16 units. And like I said, we're getting $70 to $95 rent premiums. So we've, increased the value by a ton from where we bought it.
How much per unit renovation, roughly speaking? I mean,
so there's studios and 1 bedrooms. The 1 bedrooms were around 4,000 per unit. The studios maybe closer to 3 on average.
Yep.
Yeah.
And you've done about 7 so far. How long have you had it?
A year, just over a year.
Okay, cool. And that's awesome. So let me break this down for those that are maybe passive investors or new general partners that are trying to figure it out, right? So
Sure.
Lee, you mentioned a couple things. Cash back at closing. What in the heck is that for somebody that's used to paying a lot, putting all the money down in an investment in a single family property? How did you get cash back at closing? How did you negotiate that with the seller? And you mentioned a roof. And so explain this real quick.
Yep. So, we agreed on a price, and as we're going through our inspection, we realized the roof was much worse than we thought because they had told us they had repaired the roof, they had replaced the roof, and that was true, but they just did the bare minimum. They had the roof torn off twice during storms, so they did not use their money wisely. They frankly didn't use all the money they got back from insurance. What became clear. Yeah. So we said, look, in order for us to buy it at this price, you've got to give us some cash back at closing to help us pay for a new roof. This whole roof needs replaced, or at least 3/4 of it. So they basically agreed to kind of split that cost with us. They actually gave us more than half, but they agreed. I think they had the building paid off, Abel. So they said, basically, instead of taking all this profit, we're going to give some of it back just to save this deal, because we were ready to walk away.
Yeah.
Because at the price we were paying, it just wasn't going to make sense to have to put a new roof. So they gave us some money, and that stayed with the title company. Yeah. And as we were putting the roof on, the title company would release that money for us to give to the roofing company.
And then they got money at closing. Then you fix your roof. Love it. So 1.5 years on LoopNet. For those also, I forgot to mention this. There is no MLS, listing services for commercial properties, not in the formal like when residential. So LoopNet is a place you can go to look for commercial properties. Some people list it there as opposed to a broker or with a broker. And that was on there for 1.5 years with 2 failed offers. So that means when Lee comes in and he's saying, hey, this is a take it or leave it type of thing, then that would have been their third offer. Their third deal that they lost in 1.5 years. That seller's like, nah, we got to close this deal. We got to get this off the books. Exactly. And so happy to help Lee with this roof, cash back at closing. The other thing he mentioned was a $25 utility, or whether you call it a ratio utility billing system, or you push back the utilities. He turned out that the property was paying for some of those utilities for their tenants, and he just pushed that back over to the tenants. Hey, why don't you go ahead and pay the $25, and then also you increase the rents $70 to $95 after you're doing these improvements, which are about $4,000 units. Is that all correct?
Correct. Yep.
Okay, cool. So that is actually a big increase in net operating income. Whenever you think about it that way. Have you done the math recently? I'm sure you've looked at it often, but have you looked at the math recently on how much valuation that now, provides your deal with?
Yeah. Well, I mean, we bought it at 350. Yeah. And it's with what I'm paying in taxes. That's one thing I learned, Abel. Somebody's going to buy it for you for a lot more than you bought it for. Their taxes are going to go up a lot. Their insurance is going to go up a lot. But at 650, it's still well over an 8 cap for a new buyer. So, wow. That's kind of where we're looking to get. So we've added 300,000 from where we bought it, and almost doubled the value of the property.
Yeah, baby. I love it. So buying at a 6% capitalization rate, for those that don't know, and which is, it's a solid number, but you pushing it to full basis points, from 6 to an 8, or 200, basis points from 6 to an 8, just means the deal is even better for Lee to sell it. Someone that gets they view it as, I got a really smoking deal. And I like Lee got the smoking deal. They're also going to get a good deal, but he's created $300,000 of equity with this nice, pretty slick plan, man.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's going very well. We've been blessed.
And that was deal number 1.
Yes.
With really the bit more sizable one.
Yeah, multifamily.
Tell us about your next one or what you're looking at today.
Sure. Well, I think Abel, you've probably heard of the law of the first deal. Yeah. I know Michael Blanc talks about that a lot. Well, I'm like the perfect example of that, because the day we were closing on the 16 unit, a friend of mine from church, just a really good friend of mine that I've been, telling about my journey, and he's been really interested. He's one of those guys has a very high W-2 income. So he's like, I've got the money. Let's partner. Let's get one. Well, he randomly saw a guy he used to go to church with as a realtor, a residential realtor. He listed an 8 unit. on the MLS, so on the residential MLS. And that's sometimes a good place to find the smaller multifamily deals, because a lot of times they'll have them listed and they don't really understand how to figure out the income. So then the value of the property, they almost do it as like, you looking at other comps. So anyway, he sent it to me that day. I said, if this is not falling down, this is an incredible deal. So I said, put an offer on it right away. So we actually put an offer in on the second property we were closing on, the day we were closing on our first one. And ended up being just a tremendous deal. Again, the guy, I think, just kind of maybe just didn't know what he had. Also, one of those, he owned his own company. So I think this was more of a tax write-off for him. So he was ready to kind of get out of it almost for what he got into it for. And so we were happy to do that. So that was on the MLS. Like I said, the residential MLS. And we wrote an offer on the day we closed on the first one. It was like a month and a half later that we actually closed on it. And then the third property, a 10 unit, we found on LoopNet again. And in really the same situation, it was a 10 unit and just not that desirable of an area because it was outside the city. Not a real bad area, but just low income. And it was 50% vacant. And again, they had been under contract a couple times. So the buyers actually, or the sellers actually wanted to meet with me just to get a sense that I was actually going to close, because they just did not want to go under contract again. I mean, to go out of contract, you don't have to be in under contract again. So that's kind of how we were able to close that one too. I said, no, if we can agree on this price, I will close on this property. I was very familiar with it. So yeah, the third one we got on LoopNet. Now, Abel, we're just trying to level up a little bit. We're not quite working in the arena that you're working in, but kind of that between 30 and 100 units. That area where we could bigger numbers where we're going to look to syndicate, but not up there 100 unit plus where some of the big boys are playing. It would be tough for us to compete with that kind of money. But some of these smaller ones, so we're looking 50, 60 units would just be a real nice sweet spot for us and our investors. So we're working we've got some investors that are really interested in joining us in what we're doing. So we've just kind of told people a little bit about these first three properties that we've really just done as simple LLCs, joint ventures with real close friends and family, just a couple partners on each of them. But now we're looking to get bigger properties where we'll need to bring in more partners.
Yep. That's awesome, man. Congratulations. And, again, for a little breakdown, right? The LLCs or joint venture partners or basically not syndication for anybody that's listening. Mm-hmm. Once you have a bigger property, you're going to have to raise more capital. It's going to require more partners. Obviously not every, you're not going to have, 30 cooks in the kitchen. You just want a couple, and those passive investors syndication. What Lee is doing is maybe a few of the individuals that can all make a decision, an active decision in the property would all team up together, and they'll go do these deals. I love hearing the law of the first deal. That's absolutely right. You close one, somebody else, and you talked about it, so you put it out there. And somebody picked it up, which is good. Yeah. You need to talk about what you're doing. And I encourage any passive investors, even, or obviously general partners that are trying to figure out how to raise capital. Like, you got to share your goals with people. You got to tell people what you're doing. You got to get some exposure to why multifamily, to why you want to invest, to how you're doing. And you're going to attract other people that you very well may partner with, even at church, right? Mm-hmm. So that's great, man. You've done some tremendous things, and I'm excited for you. I'm excited to hear the future too. Hello. You're listening to the 5 Talents Podcast. I'm your host, Abel Pacheco. If you're enjoying this podcast, then I know you're serious about achieving financial freedom. Are you ready to create your own path through multifamily investing for yourself and your family? Then I know you're going to appreciate our Investor's Guide to Multifamily Investing. It's titled Tackling Commercial Real Estate the Easy Way. We use this guide to invest ourselves in $93 million worth of real estate. So we're going to show you the basic mechanics of multifamily syndications and how to evaluate your next passive investment opportunity. So the best part, if you subscribe to our podcast now, leave us a review and a rating. I'm going to give you a free copy of our ebook. So please take a moment to do that now. Once you've done that, go to 5tcre.com/ebook, 5tcre.com/ebook. Make sure to let us know you left a review, and we're going to send you a free copy. So thank you so much for subscribing to the 5 Talents Podcast. We really appreciate it. So You're doing real estate, you get further into it, you're deal after deal after deal. You've learned a ton. You start a podcast. And so let's talk about this, like family, faith, real estate. That's where your podcast is at. I'd love to
Yeah.
hear, more of that side as well, man.
Yeah, absolutely. I feel, just that God has really blessed me and my family in this journey. It's been really exciting for us. It's been very challenging, but that's been a blessing as well. God has definitely taken my wife and I through some difficult times at that first flip, and we've just learned so much about ourselves, so much about each other, and it's just, God sharpens, iron through the fire sometimes, and you have to go through some difficult times, and He wants to prune us, and we've just really experienced that to a really it's been really awesome in the end, and we're really excited about it. And we've seen our investors, the few investors that we have had, just really get to benefit from this as well. So I just, I guess I wanted more people to be in on this. And obviously, like I said, we wanted to go after these bigger properties. We're going to need more people to join with us in this. So that was the idea behind starting the podcast, getting a website, and just kind of putting the word out there of, hey, here's what we've done. We've done nothing special. We've just gone after it. We have taken some risks. We've made, some big decisions and taken some big steps, but we've done nothing special. Anybody can do this. So I wanted to start the podcast to maybe educate some people and inspire some people to do it themselves, or just to get people familiar with it and what's going on. And maybe they would just want to partner with somebody like us, maybe you as well, Abel, somebody like you. But yeah, and then beyond just educating the people, though, on the real estate side of things, is just trying to make sure we always want to try to keep our focus on the things that are much more important than real estate, and the things that we're going to do in this world, on this earth. And that's our faith in Jesus Christ, and following God and His will for us. And then doing that with our family. And my wife, is much more important than anything I have going on in business, and so are my kids. So yeah, I just wanted, the podcast really focuses on that, bringing on investors and talking to them about real estate, because that's what we want to educate people on, get people excited about getting into it for themselves, or just being passive investors along with somebody else. And I say, just kind of talking to people, and maybe it's in a different field, but talking to people about how can you do really well at balancing, this work that you're passionate about and you're really going after, but making sure we're keeping our priorities straight with, walking with Christ daily, and then, pursuing our family and good relationships within our family.
Yeah. I'm smiling ear to ear, man. That's awesome. So many things that resonate, with me among what you just said. I'm a Christian, I'm a believer as well. And we put a lot of time, effort, and energy into commercial real estate, and, money, dollars, investors, deals. And you think about the amount of energy, effort, time, money, resources that we put in to have success, right?
Yeah.
And then, for me personally, man, I don't want to do all that and miss the eternal part.
Yeah, right.
Why do it, right? And so
Right.
it's good to hear that you're focused on that. So I'm very, very happy, man. And God's gonna bless you a ton, dude. So that's
Thank
great.
you. He already has.
He already has. Yeah. So your wife, maybe talk about this for a minute too. I heard a couple of nuggets. What I wanted to circle around to was your wife. I heard maybe a little hesitancy. She wasn't gung ho as you were on real estate.
No, yeah, definitely not.
Beginning to now, give us any of that stuff. So.
Yeah, she's really worked hard to come around, because she can see that what a passion this is for me, and what a dream, and how badly I want to pursue this. And she's grateful to be able to stay home with our kids. She actually homeschools. They go to school. It's like a hybrid program, but she does some homeschooling. She's very active in the home. And she's a nurse. She was working PRN as a nurse, but anyway, wants to be home. So she's really excited about the design we have for her life. But the risk that comes with real estate is very uncomfortable for her. She grew up just, like a lot of people, with parents that just, work regular jobs and just put all their money in a savings account, right? And try to pay off your house. The really kind of the if you go back to the rich dad, poor dad, kind of the poor dad path of just, but they were smart with their money, and they've actually been investors now, which has been really cool to see them kind of see what investing can do for you, like actually, investing and making your money work for you. But yeah, just from day one, she was very resistant. She's just not the type of person that likes to take risk. And for whatever reason, God put us together, because I am the opposite. Like, I'm a gambler. I want my chips to be on the table. I'm always telling her that, like, you just want, like, we have to put the chips out there. Like, if you want to play. And she's like, yeah, I'm fine not playing. And I'm like, no, I've got to play. I've got to be in the game. I mean, I can't sit on the sidelines. I want to be in this. So it's been tough, but it's been really neat how God has put us together, because she's saved me from some stuff, Abel. I mean, she's slowed me down. Some people jump into flipping and they've got to flip 10 or 15 houses before the light goes off, and they go, yeah, this is just another job. Maybe I should look into multifamily. And because she's kind of in my ear, like, hey, are you sure about this? Let's slow down. Let's think about this. It only took me one flip. And maybe that wasn't right, but for us it was. So I only had to do one flip to go, okay, let's get into multifamily. So I always say it's been so neat how God has worked with Hannah and I together, because we've moved so much slower in a lot of ways than I wanted to. And yet we've moved so much farther in a short amount of time than I ever could have imagined. Mm-hmm. I mean, I wanted to flip a bunch of houses. We only did one, but then we jumped right into a duplex. And then I'm like, okay, we're going to get a bunch of these really small multifamilies. But then a year later, we're already buying a 16 unit. And that just seemed impossible to me. So we've done a lot less deals, but we've made these big jumps because we've slowed down. And that's really credit to my wife. She's the one that's, hey, let's slow down. Let's think about this. Is this really what God has for us? And so we've gotten to multifamily very quickly on just a few deals because my wife and I are so different. I actually made her read Rich Dad Poor Dad, Abel, and she read it and she said, okay, I can see why you like this, but yeah, this doesn't speak to me.
Wow.
I think that's true. I think there's some people out there, and that could be your passive investor, right, Abel, that just says, look, I can't stomach it, Abel. I cannot get out there and put other people's money. I mean, that really eats her up that we have other people's money. For me, I'm like, oh, they're so lucky to be in on this. This is going to be so great. So they're just different people. And I think maybe
we definitely do balance each other out. That's awesome.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's been fun. It's been, challenging, but exciting and fun.
Right on. Well, hey, before we wrap up, I want to make sure where can other people that want to get into your world, where do they go reach out to you? Maybe drop your all the areas that we can get into Lee's world.
Sure. Well, I'm as far as social media goes, I'm basically just on LinkedIn and Facebook. So you can look up Lee Yoder on LinkedIn or Facebook. And then I've got a website. It's just Threefold REI, as in real estate investing, .com. So threefoldrei.com. The email is real simple. It's info at threefoldrei.com. Any of those, we've got a phone number. You can call me at 937-400-3044. Reach out to me. I love talking about this stuff, whether you want to partner or whether you want me to talk you through some stuff. Maybe I love doing some education. So I'd love for you to reach out to me in any of those mediums.
Nice. So for somebody listening today that is trying to figure out, should I go active or should I go passive, or passive investors or maybe new general partners, give us some words of wisdom here. Give us your take on, when somebody should go passive, should go active, et cetera.
I think if you've got the time, you kind of laid it out pretty well, Abel. You said, if you're a high income earner, don't, like, flipping houses is not, you're making it. That's what flipping houses is going to do for you. It's going to give you income, like extra income. If you're already making a lot, don't do that. For me, I had the time. So I have the time to go hustle. So I think if you're like that, if you've got some time, some extra capacity, you don't have that high income job that requires a ton of your time, then I'd say go be active. Start getting educated, get a mentor, do all those things and be active if you want to. But I think if you're a high income earner, if you've got a very demanding job and you don't have time to be active, then I would say start passive. At least start that way. Mm-hmm. Save some of your money and put your money in. You can, partner with somebody like Abel and really learn, on the job, really learn as you're investing. And I would say go passive. And then as you start to learn and Abel's, putting your money to work and you're making money. Maybe you do a couple deals and then you say, okay, now with this extra income, maybe now you start stepping away a little bit, getting some more time, and then maybe you go active.
Got it. Okay, great. Yeah. For somebody that's already made the decision, I'm going to go full time. I'm going to go real estate. I'm going to go I'm going to put all my chips on the table. Like you're saying, give us a few actionable items like that someone can walk away from this podcast and start today, tomorrow, and go.
I think the number one thing is to network. If you're, that's where you can, skip ahead, is if you can get out there in your local RIA and the meetup groups that they're having, reach out to people. And if somebody's already doing what you want to do, you've got to find out how they're doing it and just, copy that and start doing it very quickly and put in the work, put in the time that they've put in. And I think that's the number one thing you can do, is get out there and meet somebody that can, show you what they've done to get you to where they are.
What do you tell them? What do you say? What do you ask them once you've met somebody and, you're there, you're at the RIA, you're like, I don't know. I'm a new guy. I don't know what to say.
Yeah.
How do you
I would say, so what do you have to offer? Do you have time? Do you have money? What are you looking to get into? And is flipping going to be right for you? If flipping is going to be right, you're trying to meet somebody that is flipping or, was very successful at that. And the number one thing you got to do is find deals. So, what are you doing to find deals? Okay, you're sending out mailers, you're making calls, you're looking up these lists, you're doing that. You got to find out how to find the deals. That's where you got to get started. If you don't have a deal, you've got nothing. So if you've got some money, you've got some hustle ready to go, you got to find out how to get the deal. So if you're looking for flips, you got to find somebody that's doing well to find properties to flip. Maybe you go to these meetups and you meet wholesalers. Hey, I'm ready to go. Get me on your list. Find me a property in this area. I've got the money. I've got the hustle. I'm ready to go. So you find those people. If you want to jump right into multifamily, where are those people finding those deals? If you don't have the money, then you got to go meet those people that have the money. But if you've got the hustle and you're ready to go, I think the number one thing is to network with people on how are you finding deals, because you've got nothing until you've got a deal. Once you've got a deal, now you get the money ready, you get you going, and you can jump in.
Yeah, that's great. I have people pinging me now, Facebook and LinkedIn, and they're asking me, hey, can you teach me how to do it? Can you show me? And as opposed to, I have other people that say, hey, I found a property. It's 60 units in San Antonio. I've heard, I've seen you a couple times. Is this something that interests you? Because I have, this now, if you want to take a look at it.
Yep.
The second is way more, I'm way more excited to open the second one and say, hey, let's schedule some time. Or vice versa, somebody that says, hey, I am thinking about passively investing. I do have some questions, so one of the two, you're trying to share. You're trying to network, number one, reach out to somebody new you've never spoke to. That's absolutely key. And then, like Lee sharing, hey, do you have time? Do you have, some resources? Do you have some connections? What can you provide that person and offer them, in advance without expectation of anything. And the networking is going to go great. You absolutely do well. And then some other realization for people that are not sure, I don't want to reach out to him because, I don't want to view me as a newbie or a rookie, or I don't, I usually would say, hey, I'm relatively new in this space, but I'm learning more. And then also a little realization, like Lee, if somebody reached out to you because they said, hey, I saw you on Abel's podcast, would you want to talk to them?
I'm not that busy yet. I'm not as busy as you are. So I would, but once you start getting more, it's like, man, I can't keep taking these calls. So
today though, like if somebody reached out to you tomorrow, they saw the podcast today and they reached out to you, would you want to talk to them? Okay. Sure. And frankly, so do I. So I'm busy. I'm even busier now. My schedule's insane. But I absolutely still want to talk with somebody that says, hey, I saw your podcast, Abel. I'd like to talk. And, that's why we do these things, right? Yeah. Get exposure, get some, get everything out there. So for anybody that's listening, if you're questioning, I'd love to reach out to Lee. I'm not quite sure. Absolutely. Man, just ping me, we'll tell you when the next time available, we can speak to you. But yes, that's why we do this. We want exposure.
Yeah.
We're always networking. Yeah.
Absolutely.
So
Always networking.
anyways,
Yep.
that's good stuff, Lee. Thank you very much, man. Is there anything we didn't talk about today that you really wanted to share that was on your heart? Whatever, anything we didn't cover?
No, I feel like you really covered it all very well, Abel. Yeah, I mean, I just always really hope people continue just to check themselves to make sure that all this hard work they're putting in to be successful in business, to be successful, with whatever job or business they're pursuing, that they, just take account to say, am I living life as I'm doing this? You don't want to just try to build all this up, for some point in the future, and then you get there and you don't have a good marriage and you don't have good relationships with your kids. I mean, I think some people do that when their kids young because they think their kids aren't going to have memories, but that's when the relationships will really form. So I just always try to stress out to people that, you got to keep checking. I mean, you're doing all this stuff for your family, but are you missing the chance to have a great relationship with your family? And if you're putting in, 60, 80 hours, for your work, it's tough to have a relationship, good relationships with your family. So is there a way you could do a little bit less? Because I think those things matter more. I think most people get to the end of their life and most people don't say, I wish I would have worked more. They often say, I wish I would have spent more time with my family, and my God and the things that really matter more. So I hope people keep checking in. Hey, how am I doing? I'm putting a lot of time in at work and work's going well. Are you putting in a lot of time with your family? Is your family going well? Are your relationships there good? So I hope people keep doing that.
That's awesome. Thanks, Lee. Well, I think I prayed on one other podcast with Els Hammond. He's
cool. Yeah. He's going to be on mine.
Okay, good. Yeah. But would you mind praying us out, man? Is that okay?
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to.
All right.
God in heaven, I thank you for blessing us with this time. God, thank you for Abel and the podcast that he has and the reach that he has. Lord, I hope people hear this today, God, and that you're just moving in their hearts, whatever you have planned for them, Lord. Everybody's different, but hopefully they heard something here today, God, that just moves them in the right direction, which is God, moving toward you, Lord, moving toward your will for each of us, and God, moving toward glorifying you better. Lord, I hope with maybe in real estate that people can find some success that allows them, God, some extra freedom to follow you really well and pursue great relationships with their family. Lord, we thank you for all the blessings that you've given us. We thank you even for the hard times that you help us get through. Lord, we thank you most of all for the gift of your son and the gift of salvation that we have through him. And it's in your son's name we pray. Amen.
Amen. Oh man, I'm pumped, dude. I'm ready to go look at some deals, talk to some investors, make something happen, and go have a killer return for everyone. I'm like, let's go.
Me too.
You got me pumped up, man. I'm excited. And just wanted to say thank you very much sincerely for your time. Lee, it was a pleasure, man.
Yeah, it's been an absolute pleasure for me too, Abel. Thank you so much.
Right on. My name is Abel Pacheco. I'm your host for the 5 Talents podcast. If you heard something you appreciated today, please drop a line to Lee. Let him know that you're there. You want to get in his world. Do the same for me. Give us a review positive review on our podcast. We would love that. And until the next show, we will talk to you later. Thank you, guys. Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Lee.
Thank you.
Bye-bye. Thank you for listening to this episode of the 5 Talents podcast with your host, myself, Abel Pacheco. Each week, we're going to bring you interviews from industry experts and commercial real estate investors who follow their dreams and achieve massive success. Before you leave, let me ask you a few questions. Did you enjoy this episode? Did you learn something valuable? Was your mind stretched to what's possible and what you can achieve? Do you want other experts just like the one you heard today? If you answered yes to any or all of those questions, then please take a moment to subscribe to the 5 Talents podcast, give us a 5-star rating, and most importantly, leave us a written review. Tell us what you liked, tell us your favorite guest, give us any feedback. I'm excited to learn and improve so you can get a more valuable show. So thank you again for subscribing to the 5 Talents podcast.